When I go like this, that means I'd like you to applaud. When I go like this, it's time to bring it down. And Michael will lead us into the show. Those of you who just joined us, thank you so much for coming tonight. We appreciate it. We ask everybody to please be respectful of each other, and we'll have a great event. We've got about 5 minutes there.
What a crowd, what a crowd. This is a special edition of Newark Today, the Newark Mayoral debate. We are joining you live from Rutgers Express Newark Lecture Hall in the Hayden Company building in downtown Newark. A capacity crowd here this evening. I'm your host and moderator, Michael Hill of NJTV News. We're glad you decided to join us this evening on WBGO, WBGO.org, and on our Newark Today Facebook page. The two candidates running for mayor are joining me on the stage to my right, Councilwoman Gayle Chaneyfield Jenkins and current Mayor Baraka. Thanks to both of you for joining us and for your cooperation in making this possible this evening. Some of the ground rules for this evening. This is a 1-hour debate. When a question is posed specifically to a candidate, he or she will have a minute to answer, and then the other candidate will get a 30-second rebuttal. Some reporters' questions tonight will be posed to both candidates, and rebuttals may not be necessary unless we determine there needs to be one. I may ask a follow-up question to the candidates as well. You will both get a 90-second closing statement this evening. Mayor Baraka will go first as determined by a coin flip prior to tonight's debate. Several reporters will be joining us this evening. WBGO's anchor, reporter, and Newark Today producer, Ms. Alexandra Hill. WBGO reporter Ann Santos. Karen Yee of NJ Advanced Media, and Mark Vanamo of Tap Into Newark. Before we get started, a reminder once again to our audience to be respectful, no applause, and as Doug said, loud outbursts, or you may be asked to leave. There are two computers here in front of the stage. One has the time on it for this evening. The other one will show green when it's the candidate's opportunity to speak. The other will flash red when it's time for the candidates to stop. Let's get started. Ms. Chaneyfield Jenkins, this is for you. You supported candidate Baraka 4 years ago. You helped him become mayor. You're running against him this time. Please tell us why.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here this evening. And I believed in Newark. I believed in Baraka at that time. And I'm disappointed. Like a lot of people in the city of Newark, I thought that we were going to have a situation where we were going to have clean streets. We were going to have a united city. We were going to have people who were working with each other and competent people. And most importantly, I thought that we were not going to have abuse of power, a lot of lawsuits. And I thought we were going to be able to move Newark in a direction that was going to benefit everyone and not just some friends.
You said abuse of power. Give me an example, please.
Well, the intimidation that takes place with residents, that's the power of the mayor. He can make sure that his staff is not there intimidating residents or they're at the hearing of citizens. They're doing that during working hours. That's abuse of power. Intimidation tactics, when you turn around and you tell people that how they have to vote, when you tell senior citizens that they don't vote the way you want them to vote, that they're going to be put out of their apartments, they can lose their homes. That's intimidation.
And you said lack of cooperation. An example?
Lack of cooperation as far as with the unions. Making sure that the unions were able to get their contracts and negotiate in a fair way and to shouldn't take 4 years to get the unions be able to have their union contracts eradicated.
You said a competent administration. Is the mayor incompetent in your eyes?
I believe that the people who were selected, a great many of them, unfortunately, are not doing the job that they need to do in the city of Newark for the people of the city of Newark.
All right, Mr. Mayor, you heard what Ms. Chaneyfield Jenkins said. Your response, sir.
Well, I think it's completely ridiculous. Number one, the seniors, when that point was made to seniors about intimidation, they got up and said that was ridiculous to them. So the councilwoman knows that is not true. If our folks had been competent, we wouldn't have $4 billion worth of development happening. We settled contracts before we came here. There was no contracts. We created these contracts. We've given raises. We hired crossing guards. We hired code enforcers. We hired more police officers. We gave them a contract. We gave superior officers a contract. We're doing their contracts now, but we gave it to them. They haven't had contracts in 4 years before we came here. We did all this stuff. If there's incompetence, Amazon wouldn't want to come here. Mars wouldn't come here. If there was incompetence, the Grand Museum wouldn't be here in the city of Newark.
Sure.
We wouldn't get our schools back. So all these things are happening. I would hate to see if we had some competent people doing some work in there, because if they were competent, we'd be doing incredibly better than we're doing now. And I think we're doing a heck of a job with the incompetent people that she thinks that we have.
Ms. Mayor, she also mentioned abuse of power, and she also mentioned lawsuits.
Well, there's no evidence that we have more lawsuits than any other administration that has come here. Every administration, when people leave, when they depart, they sue. That's what happens. This happens in every industry, every place. It is pretty much common that in your first term, you run into folks that you feel like you're not compatible with, and you sever ties with those folks. And when you sever ties, they sue. This is what happens. There's no upward kind of trend in suits for this city than it was when Cory Booker was the mayor, when Sharp James was the mayor, and Ken Gibson was the mayor. There's been suits forever. I mean, some of these administrations went to 3 and 4 different corporation councils, 2 and 3 different business administrators. All of this stuff is normal practice, not only in public government, but in the private sector as well.
She also said abuse of power.
Well, I don't know where that's coming from, the abuse of power. I mean, obviously, look, if citizens, if residents want to show up and speak at the mic, they have the right to do that. If they want to go on their lunchtime and speak there, abuse of power is speaking at the mic. There would be no speaking at the mic if I didn't go to jail to have them speak. When these folks were the council people, they took away the right to speak and had me arrested when I began to fight for the right to speak. At the end of the day, when folks go to the mic, that's not an abuse of power. If a secretary, if a security guard, if a sanitation worker goes to the mic, if they go to the mic talking about me, then that's fine, right? But if they go to the mic and say something positive about the administration or defend the administration, then that's an abuse of power. That's hypocrisy.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move on here. Another question. The New Jersey Institute for Social Justice points out that of all the jobs in Newark, Newark residents only hold 18% of those jobs. How have Newark residents benefited in a meaningful way through your economic development strategy?
First of all, the unemployment rate was 12% when we came here. It is 8% now. And at some rates it was 7%, right? So we've reduced unemployment in the city because we've attracted business, because we went out and aggressively put people in jobs. We have partnered with the corporations and created a program called Newark 2020. We just put on the ground. We just opened this door, right? Corporations have agreed to hire Newark residents, have agreed to spend more money in Newark through procurement, have agreed to get their employees to live in the city of Newark. This is something that we're working on. But let me tell you this. Unemployment in Newark didn't start when Baraka became the mayor. Folks were unemployed for 20 years. This is a 50-year problem. The councilwoman has been a councilwoman since 1995. 1995 to 2006, and again in 2014 to present day. You mean to tell me she has no kind of response to unemployment? Now, today, there's a response to unemployment because Baraka has become the mayor. Now I'm incompetent because I can't get people, we have not reduced unemployment to 0 or 4%.
Ms. Jenkins, your response, please.
Well, unfortunately for the mayor, I did make sure that people kept jobs and made sure that during the 20 years that I've been on the council, back and forth, 1,400 jobs were saved at St. Michael's Hospital, Springfield Avenue corridor. You have Home Depot, Applebee's, all those things were done when Gayle Chaneyfield Jenkins was there. You had people getting hired
And what was your
at
role in all
shop.
that? Pardon me, what was your role in all that?
My role in all that, I was voting on the legislation, and I helped lead the charge for making sure that we were able to get the Springfield Avenue Marketplace, which is now called ShopRite, and all of those places. I helped make that deal happen when I was in the private sector. And I created the jobs that are the yellow and black jackets that people wear in downtown, called the Newark Downtown District, Special Improvement District. I authored that legislation. And now it's being multiplied across the state of New Jersey. But more importantly, in the city of Newark, you have over six districts now hiring Newarkers.
You're listening to a special edition of Newark Today, the Newark Mayoral Debate, live from Express Newark Lecture Hall. Our first reporter question comes from WBGO's Alexandra Hill.
This question is for both candidates. The court-appointed independent monitor, former New Jersey Attorney General Peter Harvey, says in his most recent progress report published back in January that Newark has been slow to provide the resources needed to train officers on how to interact with the community. Calling it a major concern as the city works to reform the department, how do you plan to address this much-needed training, and what are your plans to ensure the department continues to address the culture of excessive force and bias that led to the federal intervention?
Mr. Mayor, you're first. 1 minute, please.
Well, on the last show, we had this discussion. We talked about our differences with the monitor and what we thought was right and what we thought was wrong. Our police officers are being trained. We've already established opportunity in this city to rectify the relationship between the police and the community. We've begun to do that. We have less complaints and less arrests and a reduction of crime at the same time. Those two things mean our police are targeting specific individuals and not overall arresting everybody in general. We've created clergy academies. We created citizen academies. We created community ComStats. We have 2 community officers in every ward. We make the police officers walk the beat before they get a car or go into the precinct. And we're doing the training as we go. What the monitor is talking about is money. The monitor is concerned that the city pay them the $7 million that the federal government says that we have to pay them in order for them to monitor us, which means that we're being taxed twice. Right? We already been violated, now they want us to pay them. And because we're slow to pay them, then they have criticism about what's going on. But we've been moving forward, even without the monitor. We established the Victim Complaint Review Board before the monitor even said anything about it. So we're moving forward. We're moving the city forward without the monitor.
Mr. Mayor, why is this city slow in paying this?
It's $7 million.
Do you need it all at once, though?
No, we have to pay them $2 million here, $2 million there. We have to use our money wisely, and they're going to get paid, right? And so we have begun paying them, and not only do we pay them, every time they create a policy, 30 days after that, we have to put the training in place, right? So the policy and creating the training right away is difficult to do, especially because we have to pay for the training. The federal government is not giving us any money.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Jenkins?
The police officers' training is something that the state is saying we have to do. But we need to continue to keep the state and, well, the federal government says that we have to do. But we need to make sure that the police are being trained continuously. Because I can tell you a bunch of people in the city of Newark who still feel the police are being extremely aggressive towards them and being unfair to them. One of the problems we have is that when we talk about owing the government, we have to make sure that we have the money. So some of these lawsuits that we're paying out, some of the things that we're spending money on, maybe we should be spending money on that, because if we're trying to get the federal monitor to get it out of here from the police department, that needs to happen. But more importantly, when you talk about the Civilian Review Board, it's not happening. The police went to court and stopped it. So it's not happening at the level it should happen and could happen, and that means that we're not having the common dialogue with the police department to make sure that they get out of the way.
It's about to be on the field. You keep mentioning lawsuits.
None of that stuff is true. By the way.
None of what is true.
What she said, like those things. First of all,
So wait a minute, how are we doing this?
Yes, please. Mr. Mayor?
Well, ultimately, the city is spending money on police. You want to know what the city is spending money on? Hiring police officers. hiring sanitation workers, hiring code enforcement officers, hiring, bringing people back to work, crossing guard. That's what we spend our money on. We're not spending money on all the other things. She's talking about the money that's being spent is on stuff that the council voted on, by the
She
way.
mentioned that
Right.
the city doesn't have the money to pay the federal monitor because the city's doling out money in lawsuits. Is that true?
It's absolutely untrue. As a matter of fact, we are paying the monitor. We're just not paying them at the speed and the rate they want us to pay them.
Ms. Jenkins, how much is the city paying for these lawsuits? And what kind of lawsuits are we
But
talking
this is
about?
which one you talking about? The corporation council that left, we paid her $500,000. We paid one from NEDC. We paid him $99,000. We paid Mr. Isaacs $380,000. We paid a couple of other lawsuits, but the other one we have pending is the Willie Parker lawsuit, which we're talking about millions of dollars that may have to go out because of abuse of power.
Is this just the cost of business sometimes that people leave the administration, they have a swallow?
They left because of harassment, they left because they were intimidated, they left because they were asked to do stuff that they did not want to do. And that's why they left. And that's what their lawsuit said.
No, actually, it doesn't say that, and it's
Yes,
actually
it does.
slanderous for her to say that those
No,
things happen.
because even when you turn around and say that in the Willie Parker lawsuit, you said that you're not suing to distance yourself from your brother, and you did do that.
No, that's not true.
It is true.
It's absolutely untrue.
That's
That's
a
a
court
story,
document.
no, that's a story that was made up by the folks from a magazine or article or blog, whatever
No,
it is.
that's in the paper.
That's in the
That's
paper.
in
Let us move on, please.
Basis.gov.
Let us, next question,
Absolutely
James,
untrue.
WBGO reporter, and Santos has the next question for both candidates.
We'll start with the mayor.
Please.
We'll start with the mayor. How effectively are the police, fire, Office of Emergency Management working together under the unified Department of Public Safety created under this administration?
I think they're working excellent together. As a matter of fact, we respond quicker to emergencies. There's one single chain of command on all emergencies. We get together around the school shootings. We all can get together and talk not only through that singular chain of command, but bring the Newark Public Schools in as well. When there's any kind of disaster, everybody responds collectively at OEC. That's what happens. At EOC, that's what happens. So I think it's working perfect, as a matter of fact. We're able to get more done in a more efficient and quicker time. And we save money for the city at the same time.
And Councilwoman?
I don't know how we saving more money when we turn around and play extra millions of dollars in police detail for the executive protection unit. That's not going to all the people in the city of Newark. That's going to the family and friends plan. So I don't know how much money we're saving.
Well, the executive protection unit is smaller than Cory Booker's unit.
No, it's not.
It's smaller
You
than,
specifically
and not only
did
that, not only
dedicate
that,
small,
not,
but you
not,
had it more because
not only that, not
Cory
only
Booker
that.
didn't have staff members, family, friends, and
Not-
the friends and
Excuse me.
neighbors plan.
Not only that, my officers also do other police work. They just they're just not patrolling and watching.
Oh, I'm sorry,
me.
that's right, they go to
do other
Africa and they
police
go
work.
to Brazil, I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
they
that's
actually do overtime in our city. You
Yeah.
catch them in a uniform doing overtime. They still do cases. They still work in the community.
And they take kids to school. They take kids to
Ms.
school.
Mayor,
So I'm sorry, you're right, they do do overtime. So there's basketball games.
Ms. Pardon me, Ms.
That's right,
Jenkins.
I apologize.
Ms. Mayor, this savings, have savings been realized from this consolidation of these departments by creating a public safety department?
Absolutely, savings has been realized.
What's the dollar amount? Any idea
We,
of the dollar amount?
first of all, there were two, in order for us to have the regular, way it was set up, we had a police director, a fire director, a police chief, a fire chief, all the command staff under each one of those, including, all the people that represented their office. All of that was merged together, as well as, emergency operation OEM and all of the staff under them. Everybody was merged together. All of those salaries were saved. All the money spent in those offices were saved. Whatever that dollar amount is, it is a huge dollar amount for the city, and it's a dollar amount that goes continuously year after year after year after year. And first of all, if I'm the mayor, right, just like the president or just like the governor, right? So not only are they protect me? Yes, they're supposed to protect my family. They're supposed, because when I become a target, so does my family. My family members become target. The same reason that all these other elected officials have that, because their families become target. Same way somebody broke into Steve Phillips' house and stood behind his wife in her house. They all become targets. That's important. Unless the councilwoman is okay with harm coming to folks in my family, that's
No,
fine. That's
absolutely
fine.
not.
But not only that.
You have
not
protection
only
from
that-
day one.
Not
Most
only that.
people have house broken into day one.
Not only, it doesn't matter what day it was.
Well, you said they're there because they have to
Not-
protect you when
Yeah.
you're being threatened. You weren't threatened from day one.
How do you know?
Because you said when you became mayor, we became mayor.
No, you don't. And you took it personally.
And I always looked at it personally.
You should. That's why you got a police car, paid for forfeiture funds, because you took it personally. Because
And
you
you
think
got
you're
to
the mayor,
turn around your Tahoe and trade it into a navigator,
Ms.
which is
Jenkins,
much more.
Ms. Jenkins, the mayor talked about savings, financial savings. Have you seen those savings?
Absolutely not. Like I said, there's about $3 million being spent on overtime for the executive protection unit by itself.
But in terms of this consolidation that led to the creation of the public safety department, have savings been realized? Have you seen them on the books?
Well, first of all,
Yes.
you just merged, I know the books, honey, I wrote them. You have to make sure you talk about one thing. The mayor says he consolidates underneath the public safety. You still got a fire director, you still got a police director.
No, we don't.
I'm sorry, a
No, we
police
don't.
chief. You still have Malawi, you still have OEM, you have, Harep. So all those people are still being paid, there's not been a reduction in the
Let us
salaries.
move on.
But wait a minute,
That's not-
wait a minute.
Let's
The
move
one
on.
thing about it is, even when people get changed, even with the person who's in charge of, public recreation, I mean, he's still collecting the same salary, but
We
when
have
he had
to,
sanitation
Ms.
under
Jenkins,
his
we have to
department.
move on. Karen, you have NJ Advance Media has the next question
It'll
for the
save
mayor.
money.
Councilwoman, Chaneyfield, Jenkins.
Yes.
One of the criticisms of the Baraka administration is the lack of communication with residents. If you're elected, how do you plan on improving transparency and access to information for residents? What specific steps can you outline?
Well, specifically, I will listen to the residents and I will tell the truth and not tell them that it's raining when it's not. And make them think that they don't see what they see. When there's crime going on, I'm gonna tell them it's crime because they understand that. They don't feel safe. So I'm not gonna tell them it's a 50% reduction in crime and it's as safe as it's been in the last 50 years. They don't believe that. I'm gonna tell them about the potholes and tell them why we fix the potholes because it's unnecessary for the potholes that have been undone all these years. I mean, for this last year.
Mayor, can you outline some steps that you have if you're reelected to improve transparency and communication?
Well, we've already begun that. You know, the question wasn't answered at all, so I could respond to that craziness. But at the end of the day,
Might not have been answered the way you wanted to answer.
at the end of the day, we've already begun that. We've increased mobile calls. We've created opportunities for people to respond to the administration online, on the internet, through mobile applications, right? We started off with town hall meetings that we're gonna continue to do, and we're doing virtual town hall meetings as well. And I think the robocall piece has worked tremendously over the last few months in getting people to understand what's happening in and around the city.
You're listening to the Newark Mayoral debate on WBGO, WBGO.org, and the Newark Today Facebook page. Up next, education is a huge topic in the city, as we know. Mark Manamel of Tappan, New York, has an education-related question for both candidates. Mark?
There's currently debate as to whether Newark should have a mayor-appointed school board or an elected school board. What is the advantage to having a mayor-appointed school?
Me first? I don't think there is an advantage to having a mayor-appointed school board. I think it should be voted in by the residents of the city. I think the residents have to make sure that sometimes they get a slate that may not be hand-picked and the machine runs it. But I want to make sure that the residents continue to vote for a school board themselves.
I support elected school board, always have. I think that's the best form of government. The more democracy, the better.
Well, Mr. Mayor, in this case, when all of the school board candidates, you endorse, win, does that leave the door open for debate and challenge when it comes to what's best for Newark Public Schools?
Well, I think what we did was create a unity slate. So we brought people from different places together. This is nothing new, right? So when the councilwoman and the rest of them were organizing to push their candidates and they continue to do that, it's okay. The only problem is they don't win. And because we win, and because we win, now there's an issue, there's a problem. At the end of the day, we won because we came together. We came together with different elements of our community to create unity. Before that, the councilwoman and Kevin was trying to unite with another group of people to stop us from creating this kind of unity. We wanted the unity. We wanted to bring each group together to create unity, to run a school board ticket, to keep all the factions, all the fighting, all the craziness out, so that we can move forward towards getting our schools back. That was our goal. That's what we said we were going to do, and that's exactly what happened.
Now, if my husband is going to be interjected into this conversation, because my husband is not an elected official, my husband is not running, and if we're going to start doing family, buckle your seatbelt.
Let's let go of it.
I'm telling you, you better back that one back up. I got a whole damn arsenal. I can shoot.
Ms. Jenkins, a question for you.
Yes.
20 cities and or states finalists trying to land Amazon's second headquarters. Newark is offering a generous package. What concerns do you have about an Amazon second headquarters coming to Newark? And is the city doing enough for businesses already here?
The biggest concern I have with Amazon coming is the fact that I haven't seen all the details. I've not been privy to them, and not many Newarkers have, and that's one of the reasons why there's a lawsuit trying to get the information. But Amazon coming, we would have to address infrastructure issues like we did when we built the arena. We have to talk about sewer, the increasing of transportation, to make sure that Newarkers are not driving and using public transportation. So we would have to increase the rail system and make sure that it's accessible. We also have to look at how much money we're going to be giving Amazon and what are the incentives that we're giving to them.
You're on the council, we're giving too much?
No, I don't know how much they're looking for besides the $2 billion that they've been committed. I don't know what that's broken down into because, as I said, I'm not seeing the entire plan, so the devil is in the details. I need to see the entire plan. But we spent large monies before on large projects. When we built NJ-PAC, there was a large dollar amount committed from the city. When we built Prudential Arena, there was a large dollar amount that was committed from the city.
When I was down in Camden interviewing the folks down there about potentially Amazon and their pitch, Camden's pitch to Amazon to locate it in South Jersey, one of the concerns that was voiced was, you know, if an Amazon comes, it's great, but on the other hand, the people who are longtime residents of Camden, we know what would happen. They would be pushed out there now. Do you have that concern about Newark?
Of course we have that concern. We also want to make sure that the small businesses don't leave, because most of the small businesses downtown Newark rent. They don't own those businesses. So we could see a displacement of the small businesses downtown Newark. We could also see prices raised for apartments in the city of Newark, which is raising already because of progress. But yes, that's a question that many people have asked. Are we going to be pushed out? Are we going to be the 50,000? Are we going to be one of the 50,000 who get those jobs that pay over 100,000? Or are we going to be the janitors and the ushers?
Mr. Mayor, you're on the front line, trying to get Amazon second headquarters to come. You know, but do you have those same concerns that if an Amazon would come here, that people who are born, bred, Newark would be priced out?
Well, I'm glad that Councilman finally made some progress, though. But at the end of the day, yes. At the end of the day, we are concerned, which is why we're planning, right? Which is why we planned Newark 2020, which is why tied to every incentive is Newark employees. That's why the state tied to their incentives, New Jersey employees. 50,000 jobs, 60,000 to 100,000 additional jobs as a result of that. While we're working to develop a plan and strategize around these things, there are folks that are creating cynicism, and I think the only real problem that they have with it is they're not in front of it. If they were in front of it, if they were leading it, they would be cheerleading it, right? Same way they cheerleaded these other projects. But Amazon is probably the biggest thing that happened to this region in the last 50 to 100 years. This is something that we need to be embracing and talking about and discussing how we get our residents ready to be employed. And if the councilwoman was concerned about people being pushed out, she should have voted against inclusionary zoning ordinance. She voted against the inclusionary zoning ordinance, and she wrote, you did. You wrote an editorial. You wrote an editorial before you even voted against it. You wrote an editorial, then came to the meeting, and then came to the meeting and said you didn't understand it. So
No,
what's
you did not
bothering
have
me
the
is,
ordinance correct.
how
It
could
still
you,
is contradictory.
how could you
Contradictions in
write an
that
editorial
One at a
about
time.
what you didn't understand?
No.
Either you didn't write the editorial, or.
Oh, I wrote the editorial.
Oh, so you did write the
Oh,
editorial.
absolutely.
And you wrote the editorial before you voted.
Yes, because I.
Right, so that means you wrote an editorial before you voted for inclusionary zoning
No, it was
ordinance
wrong,
that you didn't
because
even
you turned
understand.
around, you had 4 or 5
But you told me
drafts.
you didn't understand it.
You had 4 or 5 drafts. I didn't understand which draft you were presenting to the council at
I
that
get it.
time, because you do that sleight of hand. You do
Oh,
the
Mr.
3-card Monty. You put one thing up, and then you do something else. That's why Willie Parker's trying to sue us now, because you had something in the law that was in the ordinance that wasn't there. When the council voted on it, then you did the sleight of hand and put it in there, and Willie wouldn't sign it.
Ms. Jenkins,
Yes, sir.
why did you vote against the inclusionary?
Well, first of all, because there were several drafts of the inclusionary zone ordinance, and those several drafts are what I voted against. All of them, yes, because I never knew which one was the real one. Because at the end of the day, you kept making people think that they include affordable housing meant that the people in Terrell homes or Bradley Ford or the people whose income is only $34,000 a year were going to be able to move in there, and it's not. So the people who live and work in the city of Newark, it's not affordable for them. Affordable for who?
Do we get to rebut that?
Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
Oh, absolutely. Let's do
So,
this all night.
at the end of the day, the editorial she wrote did not say any of that. The
Yes, it
editorial is flat out against the inclusionary zoning.
Yes,
And if
and
you
I'm
actually-
still saying I'm
and
against
if you actually read what the inclusionary zoning says, it breaks the numbers down from 40% to 60% to 80% of the area median income. 40% of the area median income is affordable. There are people who live in this building here.
Who have
the
eviction
building
notices
here.
on their door
Who
right
live in
now
this building
because they
here.
can't afford it.
No, who live in this building, there are people in there who live in this building who's living there on unemployment checks. So
They
at the end
can't
of the
afford
day.
it. There's people who have eviction notices right now. You talking about $900 for a 2-bedroom.
Mr. Mayor, I have a
And then you
question
turn
for
around
you.
and talk about parking, $200.
$900 is one
And not only put $200 more on for parking, not only that, put another $200 for that. That's over $1,400 right there, man.
Mr. Mayor, question for you. The Shaquille O'Neal building, or Shaq Tower, some folks call it, on Russian Street, is to be completed next January, they tell us. 168 market rate apartments. He announced plans to build 350 market rate units at another site on the Carter Highway. What does market rate mean in this case? Does it mean affordable, and how does it meet your plan to make more affordable housing available to the residents of Newark?
So every developer in this city that gets a tax abatement, right, that has to get a variance at this point, has to have 20% affordability in their property. That's number one. As the ordinance goes on to 2019, all development, whether they get a tax abatement or variance or not, has to adhere to that policy. That's what the ordinance says. The ordinance also says that if the city deems it necessary or that you cannot fulfill that we can identify abandoned properties, vacant lots, that we can have you redevelop in the city, right? You can redevelop that property and you can sell it at cost, so you don't make any money off of the property. Or you can pay into a fund, right? So everybody has to develop affordable housing. The market in Newark is a lot more affordable than the market around Newark and New York. This is what's driving this, the progress in the downtown area. So affordability in Manhattan is $3,000. Affordability is based on an area median income, right? So if the median income in the area is $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, 60% of that, 80% of that, 40% of that is extremely low. That's a fact. If the area median income is higher than that, then that number goes up. So what happens is this is why we need the inclusionary zoning ordinance now before people begin to move in with incomes that are higher than what's average in this city.
Ms. Jenkins, is the mayor paying the affordable housing in your estimation?
First of all, with the inclusionary zone ordinance, you can opt out. You can pay a certain amount to say that you're not going to build any affordable units. And if you don't want to have, if you don't get a variance, you don't have to get part of the inclusionary zone ordinance where you put a certain amount of affordable housing in. So, unfortunately, That is not true. And it's
Is
just disingenuous.
this administration creating affordable housing opportunities for the residents of Newark? No, let her answer the question. Thank you.
I can do this, please. Yes, there is affordable housing being created. Now, is there low-income housing being created? Is there moderate-income housing being created? That's a slower process. But that's what people are looking for. Because when you say affordable, the person, again, I will say, who makes $34,000 cannot move into these affordable units and afford to stay.
So you're on the council, tell this audience and tell the public what you're doing on the council to help us on these opportunities.
I said, we are building, with Newark Housing Authority, we just did Montgomery Heights, we just did a couple of other low income and affordable, but we are doing market rate housing. And it unfortunately is not something that we're against. I'm not against market rate, but I'm against the inclusionary zone that only talks about affordable housing for people who cannot afford it.
Our next question is from Little Angels, Alexandra Hill. Alexandra?
This would be directed to the councilwoman first, since you spearheaded this sexual harassment ordinance that recently passed the city council unanimously. When the issue was first raised, you spoke of allegations of sexual harassment inside City Hall. How do you plan on further ensuring that this ordinance is enforced?
The ordinance will be enforced because there's a task force that was set up that the mayor will be able to appoint people on that task force. 2 will be community members, 1 will be a clergy, 1 will be a retired police officer, hopefully not one from Newark, but they will be, and there's a person who will be representing someone who has expertise in sexual harassment, whether it's somebody like from the group Sophia or from Rutgers. And so they will be able to have the independent attorney who will do the fact finding between the accused and the accuser. That information will then be passed on to the task force. The task force then passes that information on to the personnel director. The personnel director will then take appropriate action with the manager of the immediate person. If there's something that's found, then it will be resolved. If it's something that is not found, then the person will not be accused and will have his or her name cleared.
Mayor, in response?
Well, we were never opposed to that. You know, the state of New Jersey has the strongest affirmative action laws in the country, the strongest. As a matter of fact, you know, the laws the process that's in place in Newark is in place in every other city in the state of New Jersey. The councilwoman codified this process. We agreed with that. She added another piece to it, which we also agree with. And, you know, we think it's good legislation.
Richard Temerary of the Ironbound Community Corporation is here with a question from the audience. Richard?
Thank you. That's what the new community corporation. Question for both candidates related to policies on equitable development. The downtown area of Newark, as we discussed, is seeing a boom in residential development, the likes of which it has never seen in its history. I guess number 1, what is in store or in place to ensure that benefits from that development are given to the majority of Newark residents at large? And number 2, what is in place or in store in terms of generating complementary development in more distressed areas of our cities, for instance, in the South Ward, Central Ward, parts of the West Ward, which has a disproportionate amount historically of vacant land and abandoned properties for both candidates?
Well, Richard is working at an institution that my family started that knows about low-income housing and making sure that they push up into the neighborhoods. And between 1995 and 2006, I was on the council when we brought in over 20,000 units of housing in the communities, Richard. It was not just downtown. We're still having issue with people having the perception that it's not happening in the uptown, but we are making it happen in the uptown. So it's not just downtown, but you work at a corporation that New Community just got their additional land and they're gonna be building there. So that's in the neighborhood.
Mayor?
Right. I'm glad that Councilwoman has admitted that we are developing outside of downtown, in the neighborhoods. There is cranes probably on every major corridor in the city, and every major corridor. And as a matter of fact, we have a homesteading ordinance that we're about to pass. We are working with the inclusionary zoning ordinance, by the way, that nobody can opt out of. The city, in the ordinance, the city has the right to tell you whether you can opt out or not. You can't just make a unilateral decision not to be involved in that. We are partnering with the Urban League, who is taking houses and rebuilding them for us, and turning renters into owners. We partner with New Community to build, transitional housing for homeless residents in the city. We're partnering with all kinds of community organizations to build affordable housing. And we also put together local minority contractors, black and brown in this city, and began to give them properties in parts of the city in the west, the lower West Ward and the South Ward, in about neighborhood units, to begin to get them to develop as well. That's what we're doing right now. And there are many developers that you can see if you walk out here and find them that are developing in this community right now that look like me and you.
New York President Rose Mosley joins us and has a question for the candidates. Ms. Mosley?
Hello. Since both of you are already elected officials, what is one positive community building initiative you've learned from each other?
I've learned how to be patient.
Anything else?
I'm sorry.
No, anything else?
Oh, yeah, I've learned how to be able to say things to people and make them believe that what I'm saying is good.
Well, I from the councilwoman, honestly, I think that, her perseverance through being able to run for office all those times, to get, have a gap there and come back and run again, I think that's good. And that kind of perseverance is something that is commendable. Even when people were attacking her out in the street and calling her names, when we stood out there and defended her, I think that perseverance is something that's commendable, and I think that's a trait that a lot of people should look at and look up to.
And I commend you on your perseverance as well, Mayor, and when people were talking about you, I was commending you as well.
Mr. Mayor, please. Mr. Mayor, a follow-up question on the vacant homes and so forth and abandoned properties in Newark. Has what you've been implementing, is it working? Because I think people can go throughout some of the wards, especially the South Ward, and look at, there's still a lot of abandoned properties that are there.
Absolutely. And it's working, but obviously 3 years or 3.5 years of stuff that has been in place for 50, we're not going to be able to address in one term, which is why we think that we need to continue to do what we started, right? To continue to move the city forward. We've identified properties. We're redeveloping properties that have been abandoned for the last 5 decades. We're redeveloping parks that have been, we have took buildings like Sunny Oliver's that have been vacant and turned it into pocket parks. We've turned buildings that have been old banks and turned them into residential housing for residents. We're taking areas of the community that have been neglected for decades, right? Not since 2014, but 1994, 1995, been neglected even before that. Since the Newark Rebellion, we have been hitting these places. Downtown has never had anybody living in the downtown community. We have about 5,000 units slated to be built in this downtown now. 10,000 in the next couple of years. This city is growing tremendously, exponentially, right? There's development happening all over the city in places where there was no development. On Martin Luther King Boulevard, on Irving Turner Boulevard, on Central Avenue, on 18th Avenue. Development is happening in this town. It is undeniable to say otherwise.
Ms. Jenkins, your thoughts? Because there are people who go throughout the city, especially South Ward, and see a lot of properties that are boarded up, streets that maybe just a few houses on Central Ward, South Ward.
One of the things that was successful was having a good economic director when we were able to put over 20,000 units of housing on the rolls immediately. The mayor is saying that there are buildings that have been in disrepair or decayed for 50 some odd years. I assume he's talking about during the Gibson and James administration, but those are some of the things we just got finished developing. One Theater Square, that was part of the James administration. Haynesville, where we're at now, that was part of Corey's administration. So yeah, we are developing, and I understand the need to develop in the communities. But you have to do it with the incentive, and what we did was, we told them if you build in East Ward, you gotta build in the Central, South, and West. That was the way we pushed development to happen. We made the developers go into neighborhoods. That's why Manny Rosa was the first Portuguese developer who went to the South Ward and built housing, because we made him have to do it. And then other people followed suit, and that's why you had development going on. That's why you had development going on in the communities.
Well, if you drive past 78 and all those places, you see all of those three-family houses that got abandoned. You see old structures that were never finished. You see all of this stuff from all of the things that they were doing. And that strategy is a good one, which is why inclusionary zoning is in place that you voted against. That's what we're trying to get them to do.
Trying to do with the
But at the end of the day,
maybe model neighborhood initiative, which is not working.
But at the end of the day, well, that remains to be seen. But at the end of the day, none of this stuff happened. None of this stuff happened in 2 years, in 3 years. It took these people 15 years, 20 years to get some of the stuff done that you see now. And One Theater Square was not done. The Haynes Building was not done. None of these, they were marching down the field. These things were marched down the field. One Theater Square, as a matter of fact, the developers walked away from One Theater Square. It was the mayor who went to Philadelphia, got the mayor from Philly to come here and sit in a room and get them to make that project happen. We did that, right?
The first
Right.
$1 million for One Theater
That's good.
Square.
And I'm glad
Okay.
you
We did
started
the
the
same
game,
thing.
but you gotta finish it. So
Yeah,
at the end
I
of the
got it
day,
down to the touch line for you, so what?
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
well,
so,
actually,
but I was part of it too.
Candidates for
You had a good idea.
Okay?
Start with the mayor here. What state, what place is the Mulberry Common project in at this point? And is this project something that the city of Newark needs?
Well, Mulberry Commons is another. Right, so let me finish. The Mulberry Commons is another thing, almost the same thing as what the councilman is talking about, right? Something they wanted to build, it didn't happen, they couldn't bring people together. 10 years, it didn't get developed. 10 years, there was no development, no movement. The previous mayor said they couldn't get it done either. And we came and got it done. Now, you take my word for it, ask the developers. The developers know who put them in that room. The developers know how this project happened. That is happening now. They've broken ground now. Not only that, we've added a walking bridge to it.
Come on.
We've attached it to Penn Station. We've attached it to Peter Francisco Park, which was never a part of any of it. And because Amazon is lurking around to be in our city, we're getting promises of infrastructure development and infrastructure investment that was never there before. Promises to fix our train station that has never been invested in a very long time. Promises to develop the areas downtown, widen our roads, invest in our sewer system, our traffic system here in the city, our lighting. All of that is because of the direction the city is moving in. And I commend, like I did at the State of the City, I don't take anything from people who started these things. But you can't take away from the fact that we scored a touchdown. It's just that simple. We put it over in the end zone. These folks, they worked. It couldn't happen. That's why the market didn't change. The market changed because we made One Theater Square happen. That project was over. Those people walked away from that project.
The market changed with the recession, okay, but I want to say one thing. When it was called Triangle Park at the time, you didn't have 5 votes to get it done because the Hispanic council people did not understand what it was. And you called me, and when I got on the phone, when Mitty handed me the phone, you said, Gayle, do you understand what this is? And I said, yes, ma'am. So I turned around and got back up there and reminded Augie Amador and Louis Quintana why it was important to have it done. So guess what? I threw that touchdown for you.
You should have reminded the council people that was on it with you 10 years ago? And then we only have to
There
be
was
doing
a
it this
sky,
year?
no, but the skyline was already a part of that plan.
Yeah.
It being connected to,
You just couldn't get it done.
the East
You
Ward.
should have threw it
No,
to Bessie
but-
and Hector. and
That's
the rest of them. Just to make it happen.
No, they did make it happen, but that's not what I'm saying.
Bubble,
They did not,
intercept,
but they
yeah.
did put that in action. But give me the credit. You did, when it wasn't being done, I made sure, I got it over the goal line, I did the touchdown.
Describe that for me. What exactly is the touchdown?
I was saying when he does things, that it's a touchdown. Okay? Touchdown! But when we talk about the lack of insurance for our retirees, when we talk about the fact that there are people who think affordable housing is for them, when we talk about the fact that we have all these lawsuits and stuff like that, he doesn't talk about that being a touchdown. I guess that's a fumble.
Can I respond to that? Every great team has a few fumbles and interceptions. The great thing about that is it doesn't stop them from winning the game.
That's right.
So at the end of the day, the fumble didn't stop us from getting 1 Theater Square done. Fumbles didn't stop us from getting Triangle Park done. Fumbles didn't stop us from getting the schools back.
Come on.
Fumbles didn't stop us from reducing crime. So if you're there for all the
No,
positive
I
things.
wasn't there. I was not there for.
So-
No, I was
so
not there
if-
for the. I was not there for the inclusionary zone. No, I was. not.
So if you were there for the positive things, don't you have to take credit for all the things that you're saying? Because you are a councilwoman. All the things that you're saying are negative. So if you think the numbers were skewed by the police and all this other kind of stuff, when you voted to make Ambrose permanent, you should have asked him those questions.
I did during the budget hearing,
Well,
Mayor.
no,
Yes,
I
I
listened
did.
to it. When you
Yes,
text
I
them,
did.
you text them that you're doing an excellent job.
I did.
But now today, the city is
But
like
that,
skewing up.
he's doing an excellent job, but that doesn't mean that crime is down 50%.
Right.
Pardon me.
Or it's not down
Karen, he has
the
another
last
question.
50
Karen?
years.
This question is for both candidates. 1 in 3 students in Newark attend a charter school, and that enrollment is expected to increase to about 40%. Do you think there should be a moratorium on further charter schools opening up in the city?
Well, I personally believe that it's about educating the children. I think we need to get away from talking about charter versus public, because unfortunately we're pitting our parents against each other. The children right now need to make sure that they're able to aspire and be able to compete locally, statewide, and on a national level. And right now, until we get those kind of programs in all of the schools, we're not gonna be able to talk about a charter school being built. Most of the charter schools were built before I was back on the council. So when my council colleagues voted for it, they knew they weren't putting grocery stores there, they knew they weren't putting flower shops there. So they built those buildings, they gave land to those charter schools, and unfortunately, we have been still pitting each other against the charter and public school parents. So I'm about the education. I don't think that the schools need to continue being built. I think we need to take care of and look at the examples of what's working and what's not working.
Mr. Mayor?
So I agree that we need to stop the kind of infighting that goes on between our parents. I think there's no authentic charter parent, there's no authentic traditional public school parent. Our parents send kids all over the place. But it's irresponsible to not look at what's happening financially in our city, right? To say that the Newark Public Schools has a deficit and run around and tout that, but do not address the fact that when charters grow at rapid rates, that affects that, is irresponsible. So we have to begin talking about how to slow the growth down in some of these charters, slow it down. And in some cases, yes, have a moratorium, so that we can begin to rethink what's happening in the Newark Public Schools, in the traditional school system, to begin to strengthen it financially. It's necessary, right? Luckily, we have a governor that is interested in fully funding the schools. And we move towards fully funding the schools, I think we would have less issues, because the issue is inequity, right? When you take something from one place and give it to another, right, you're gonna create this kind of, this problems between parents and community. We have to stop that, right, and begin to get resources for all of us in our community. And then let the parents have a discussion about what's best for their children. Let the teachers have a discussion about what's best for their children. the municipal council is not in control of the land of Newark Public Schools, right? So all of those things were done by the Newark Public Schools and the state, because we didn't have control over our schools then. So the state closed schools, the state took land, the state turned public schools into charter schools. The state did that, which is why we wanted the state to go. We wanted the state to go, not because of what they were doing, but because they were doing it without the parents' consent.
Come on.
That's what the important thing is.
The state did not sell.
It's 8:54, it's time for your closing remarks. Mr. Mayor, you're up first. 90 seconds, there's a clock there that will monitor your time.
When I came into office, we had a $93 million deficit, $57 million deficit. We eradicated that. There were no police officers being hired. We started hiring. We had no supervision of police. We began to promote police officers. We hired fire officers. We had 10 snowplows. We bought snowplows. We fixed the deficit. We reduced the unemployment. We reduced crime in the city. Every year, crime has reduced every year. That's a fact. Now, I don't care what you believe or perceive. The fact is, crime, robberies is down. Aggravated assault has been a problem for us, but the rest of those issues have been down. And yes, we have the lowest crime reported in 50 years. That's a fact. Newark is moving forward. The councilwoman was there for 20 years. She admitted that. She was on the council for 20 years. She has to take responsibility for the state the city is in today. She can't just say garbage is not being picked up and stand in front of garbage in her ward and then take a video shoot of it.
Come on.
She should be calling DPW and telling them to clean it up. She's a part of this. When she says there's too much potholes or too much problems in the street, she's a part of that as well. How can she say she's a part of the development in the city, but not a part of the garbage in the city? How can she take credit for Triangle Park, but not take credit for potholes? How can she take credit for all of this stuff and not the bad stuff? Look, when Sharp James became the mayor, they gave him an opportunity to finish what he started. When Kim Gibson became the mayor, they gave him an opportunity to finish what he started. When Cory Booker became the mayor, they gave him an opportunity to finish what we started. All we asking is that you give Baraka an opportunity to finish what I started.
Ms. Jenkins, 90 seconds, please.
The mayor turns around and says that I'm in charge of those kinds of things because I'm on the council. Yeah, I called DPW, and they still don't fill the pothole. The city is the dirtiest it has ever been. That's called management. That's called administrative branch of government. See, that's one of the problems the mayor has. He wants to be like Cory Booker and control the council all the way. I know the separation between what the administrative branch of government is and the legislative branch is. I do call DPW. I do call for recreation issues. I do make those phone calls. I can't help if you have turnover of staff members and they don't get the calls or they don't follow through. Yes, the city of Newark gave Sharp James a chance. But you were one of the people who didn't want Cory Booker to get a second chance. So now why you want to ride on the coattails of saying, give me a second chance just based on that? The issue is the city of Newark is divided. And the city of Newark is divided. And the city of Newark is not clean. And crime is not down. And just because you say it as loud as you want to say it and as often as you want to say it, doesn't make it true. Because the rest of us don't feel it. The people that live in Hooterville don't feel it. The people that live in the upper blocks don't feel it. The number blocks don't feel it. They know that this city of Newark is not servicing them when it comes to crime. They're not getting their kids dropped off at a basketball game. Okay? So Gayle Chaneyfield Jenkins is running for mayor, and I'm taking responsibility. And you said it right, Mayor, through perseverance. I'm the daughter of the city of Newark. When we let the sons of the city of Newark run it, so let one of the daughters take this time and run the city of Newark.
It may be time for you to leave. Thank you, Chris. We want to thank both the mayor, Mayor Baraka, and Councilman Chaneyfield. I'm speaking now, please. Thank the mayor and the councilman for their participation tonight, as well as our audience. You've been a terrific audience. Our reputation for them. Thanks to our reporters, Alexander Hill, and Santo, and Santo, Karen Dean, and Martin Daniel. Thanks to the tech crew, David Callison, Corey Goldberg, Chris Tubin, Sarah Person, our debate producer, WBGO and sports news director, Doug Doyle. Thanks to Bill Doctor and Nicole Sweetie back in the studio. If you missed any of this debate, you can go to WBGO.org, watch New York Today, Mayoral debate. I'm your host, Michael Hill. Have a great evening. This is WTO.
I can though. Hit that button, go to my remote.